Come learn what matters at MIT WPU.
Sir, आपल्याबरोबर Venerable Geshe Lhakdor ji आहेत. He is the speaker today. He is an ardent disciple of His Holiness, has translated multiple books for His Holiness, has written his own books, and is currently the director of the Tibetan Archives and Library in Dharamshala. Venerable Geshe ji, Dr. Karad sir is the founder of MIT Group, and it's his perception that has led to creation of this beautiful organization that works on developing young minds for peace.
Amazing.
And His Holiness and Dr. Karad sir have had quite a few meetings through their life, starting way back in 1996 when His Holiness joined us for the first World Philosophers Meet in Pune, India.
Okay, I know.
Yeah. So
wonderful.
it is for us as MIT Group, it's life coming full circle. The journey we started in 1996. Today we host the Dalai Lama Chair. For us, it's a big deal.
Yes.
Good morning, Tashidele. I'm Darshan Mundada, and on behalf of Myers MIT World Peace University and philosopher Saint Sri Gnaneshwara World Peace Prayer Hall and Library, I welcome you all to the second lecture under the aegis of the Dalai Lama Chair. It's the right opportunity for me to invite our speaker for the day, Geshe-la, for the most awaited talk on Nalanda studies and its relevance today. Venerable Geshe Lhakdor ji, it's the time for me to invite you and take over.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Respected Dr. Vishwanath Paradji, faculty members or dignitaries of the university, Rajiv ji and Darshan ji and students. It is a great honor for me to visit your university online. So these days when we talk about visiting place, online, you immediately get this feeling that you are almost like a pari, which can travel in the space and reach everywhere. So that's the marvel of science and technology. So it's really, really amazing to get this glimpse about university. And I was actually very struck just by the names of the university. World Peace University, what an ambitious title, and what a great thought. It's not confined to just one small sect of religion, small sect of community, or even a country. World peace is an amazing idea. And then underneath there is another writer, which is the world's first university for life transformation. Amazing, amazing, amazing. The vision, the greatness of the vision, there is no question about that. But how much we are able to implement, that's of course always a difficult task. But I am delighted to visit your university online and know a little bit about the good things that you are doing. And especially I must applaud your university for offering this chair of His Holiness Dalai Lama in collaboration of Rajiv ji and the Foundation for Universal Responsibility. And of course, if there is one person who is really wholeheartedly, totally, and lifelong kind of dedicated to world peace, I think there is no question about His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So it is, of course, very, very worthwhile to have him. And I'm not saying this because I'm his, special follower or I'm a Tibetan. It's nothing to do with Tibetan or things like that. We need to think bigger. It's for world peace. It's for the greatness of India, peace in India, and so forth. So this is a wonderful thing that you have done. Because when we talk about spreading peace and spreading great ideas, these are almost like an uphill task because not many people will be able to appreciate it. If it is a question of coming up with a big structure, multi-million-dollar structure with, amusement parks and things like that, then everybody will come and throw their money. But when you are opening up a university where these great ideas are available, then sometimes there is a dearth of kind of cooperation. So, but This is something that we must do, without which we are all going to have great problem. So therefore, it's a great privilege for me to say something today on the Nalanda tradition and its relevance today. And I'm sure you're all aware of this. I really don't have to say much and have nothing much to say. But I think it is important here to think it a little bit bigger, because His Holiness, I know, has been for a long, long time talking about the importance of Nalanda tradition. And of late, he was not talking only about Nalanda tradition, but he's talking about the relevance of Indian tradition, or in other words, the revival of ancient Indian tradition. So the greatness of the Nalanda tradition must be brought about in the with the background of the ancient Indian tradition. I think this is much bigger thinking. I think it's very important. And I've met a number of people who keep on talking about Nalanda tradition, which is good. And I've been telling them, no. Of late, His Holiness is not talking only about Nalanda tradition, but he's talking about the revival of ancient Indian tradition. Now about this ancient Indian tradition, with the Nalanda tradition, I may have something to say, but with this bigger, background of the ancient Indian tradition, I mean, I really, honestly speaking, don't know much. But the little bit of reading that I've done here and there, it clearly says that, we basically talk about this ancient Indian tradition as something like Indic civilization or Indic religion, which includes, of course, the Nalanda tradition. And we need to appreciate the fact that this Indic civilization is by far one of the longest civilization on this planet. And apart from its antiquity and magnitude, the very special feature of the Indic culture has been its extreme diversity and plurality, covering not only 5,000 years of continuing, practice of Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, Islamism, Sikhism, and so forth. But as I was saying, that it also has these secular writings in many of these great traditions, which is really absorbing and full of wisdom. So we need to think it in a bigger kind of stance, because here we are not talking really about one particular religion. I think that's very, very important in terms of cultivating world peace and harmony around the world. Because human beings have, by nature, this tendency of focusing on small sections. Our mind is good for division, not so good for holistic approach and for harmony. So if we talk about emphasizing about the greatness of Hinduism or just greatness of Buddhism, or then within Buddhism also one particular school, we are very good. Because we have, at the center of all these approaches, we have this ahankar, the me, you see, my religion, my community, my nation, therefore, this is the best. I think this kind of narrow-minded thinking now has not much place in this modern world. Because of the speed of science and technology and other medias, we're all hurled and thrown into the face of each other, whether you like it or not. So this kind of small-minded division, saying that my one is the best one, everybody must follow it, or in some worst cases, people who don't follow it, you even try to eliminate them. And this is happening not only in the practice of religion, but in all kinds of ideologies. For example, what is being done in some of the communist countries and things like that, it's all evident. So that is really, really suicidal. So therefore, we need to know, number one, that this Indic religion or civilization has always been a dialogue religion, a dialogue philosophy. It is highly, highly encouraged that the teachers and the students must engage in serious dialogue. The students must always get opportunity to ask questions when things are not clear. And don't accept anything per se based on blind faith. That is a very, very unique feature in the Indic civilization. And unfortunately, all these things are gradually kind of waning out, which is a shame and which is very, very unfortunate. So I mean, even if you borrow just one line, which is normally cited by everybody, Indian wisdom based upon the ancient Rig Veda dictum, ekam satvi prabha bahuda vadanti. The truth is one, The wise call it by many names. This is something that everybody, these are the sources, you see, that we are one, truth is one. But today we live in an area where there's so much turmoil and transition, and nothing seems to be certain, and people are, struggling to find what is the meaning of life. And when they don't get the right answer, in desperation, they do many stupid things. So under such a difficult, changing situation, how can we pull the wisdom out of those ancient traditions, including the Nalanda tradition, to make it relevant in today's world? That is the question that you asked me to speak about, relevance of Nalanda tradition. So here, it's important to know that whether you call it the Nalanda tradition or the teaching of the Buddha, but today, of course, I will focus primarily on the philosophical and scientific part, not so much on the religious belief, which is also important in countries like India. So in if you think about this Nalanda tradition or the Buddhist tradition as a whole, as a whole, then what is really important is that the whole philosophy, the structure of the philosophy or religion, whatever you want to call it, is based on the law of nature. That's Nalanda tradition. Meaning that when we talk about doing Dharma practice, if you just think about this word Dharma, it is not really religion. Dharma here basically means law of nature. So what is being said in the Nalanda tradition or thereby the Buddhist tradition is that we must understand the law of nature as it is, without exaggeration, without denigration. This is important because we need to live our life in accordance with the law of nature. We need to live in harmony with the law of nature. That's why, in Buddhism, the teachings like suffering, it's the law of nature. It's not something invented by Buddha. We are all, have that kind of suffering. Similarly, he talks about impermanence. There's law of nature. Similarly, Buddha talks about, in the Nalanda tradition, we talk about the interdependent origination or shunyata. There's law of nature. And it is in fact clearly mentioned in the text that whether the Buddhas or the great Buddhist teachers come or not, but the ultimate, nature of everything is shunyata, whether they come or not. But unfortunately, we don't pay much attention to this basic fundamental law of nature, and we go by the appearances, how things appear, how things are functioning, what is the present environmental situation. So just almost like animals, we try to adapt to the changing situation, primarily running after the sensual needs and not so much going into the deeper level of the mind through meditation and so forth. So therefore, we are not able to solve many of our problems. So living a life which is like an animal is, of course, not useful, especially in the case of human beings with this great human intelligence and great brain, because you have this wonderful intelligence and great brain, you have this capacity to always ask questions and get answers, including deeper questions about reality and so forth. So unless you're able to address all these questions through contemplation, through what is known as the shamatha and vipassana, things like that, you are not going to solve the problem. So that's important. So therefore, in order to properly understand the law of nature or the reality, three things are mentioned in the Nalanda tradition. One is that if you look at the law of nature, you will see three things. One, what is known as the obvious phenomena, things that your senses can see. The eye can see something, the ear can hear something, the nose can smell something. So these are what is known as obvious phenomena, which you can directly see, which you can directly hear. So now in this area, if you want to really have more stable, peaceful life, what is important is you must use your senses to know this directly by yourself. Don't just go after listening to somebody. See it by yourself, hear it by yourself. If it is something that you have seen personally, you've heard personally, then you can say, yes, I know this is the truth, this is not the truth, because I've seen it, I've heard it, and so forth. This is important because even on this obvious level, many of us fail to use our senses to directly perceive the reality. Instead, in Hindi mein bolte hai na, kaha suna, that you keep on, going after the rumors. Now, in this case, not only us, even Aristotle made a big problem. I am tempted to tell this short story. Aristotle married, I think, two women. But he always kept on saying in many of his discourses that women have less teeth than men. Because he heard it from somebody and he never counted the teeth of his wives, although he married 2 times. So that's what I'm saying. So if you personally do not find things out and just keep on listening to other people and without understanding that properly, without proving it as a fact of the matter, if you go on spreading, things that about which you are not sure, then it creates a lot of problem in the society based on rumors, as we say. And especially in today's electronic age, it's very, very dangerous spreading rumors through online processes, which we are already experiencing all over the world, especially these days. A lot of talk is going on that. So there's number one. Second, so there's nothing religion about that. This is something for our good life, we must do that. Second, and nature has given us this eye, the tongue, to taste. Nature has given us to take only those things which is important for you and not others. The second is what is known as the slightly hidden phenomena. Then there is an area of, area in the objective world which you cannot directly see by your senses. Now, even in the field of those, objects in the world which you cannot directly see, today with the help of science, the capacity to see more than what our naked eyes can see is possible because of use of scientific technologies. So we made a lot of advancement in this. Second, this is the area which is called as the slightly hidden phenomena, which you cannot directly perceive by your senses, but you can reason that out. For example, the normally in Buddhism we say, for example, on the top of a distant mountain, if you see smoke, but if you do not directly see the fire, but you can reason out, you can infer that there must be smoke, there must be fire, or there must be people there who are cooking or burning something. So you can find out the presence of the fire and people there by seeing the smoke. So that is called inferential cognition. That's extremely important. So again here, the role of reasoning is very, very important. Third is what is known as completely hidden phenomena, in which area you cannot directly perceive, you cannot also reason it out, but you have to rely on the statement of somebody. Now, for example, if I ask Darshanji, when were you born? He might say, I was born in such year and month and so forth. Then I again ask Darshanji, how do you know that you are born on this particular day, time, things like that? He can never answer this by saying, I have seen it myself, or I'm so clever, I reasoned it out. But he will say, my parents told me, right? So you have to trust their statement. Now, that is not a stupid decision because there is a reason why you trust the statement of your parents. You trust the statement of your parents because parents, they love you, they love Darshanji, and they have no particular reason to tell lie about his, date of birth and things like that. So indirectly you reason out, but directly you need to rely on their statement. So these are the different processes of finding the truth. So therefore, what I'm trying to say is, to make a long story short, in the Nalanda tradition, using logic and reason. And once Buddha was visiting a certain particular area, then the people from different villages came to see him, and they said, our community is visited by many teachers. One teacher comes and give a teaching, and says that this is the right path, this is the correct path, this is the best path, follow it. And after that sermon, he leaves. Then after a while, another teacher from different tradition comes and says, this is the short path, this is the quick path, this is the best path, follow it, this is the best. Then a third person comes, then a fourth person comes. All these teachers saying different things, but everybody is saying this is the best path, the short path, the quickest path. So we are confused. So how should we deal with this kind of situation? That is the question that they asked to the Buddha. Buddha answered by saying that you should listen to all of these teachers, but at the end of the day, you use your common sense. Unfortunately, common sense is not very common, but this is what the Buddha said. Use your common sense. All of us got this brain, the same brain, same human intelligence, same capacity to analyze, to judge. That's, I think, that must be encouraged as a follower of the Nalanda tradition, questioning, finding things by oneself, not simply following somebody out of blind faith. Blind faith, in fact, has no place in the Nalanda tradition. I think that's very, very important. If it is something right now, you don't understand, then you don't need to comment on that as good or bad or non-existent or existent. Just for the time being, just explore more, analyze more. Through that, if it is something that is existent, something that is true, you will be able to find it. If it is not existent, also you will be able to find it. So that is also a scientific approach. If you ask about the existence of future life and things like that to an unbiased scientist, they will never say that there's no afterlife. Of course, they will not say that there is afterlife. They will only say, no, this is not my field, I don't know. So that is honest. So similarly, with that kind of unbiased aptitude is very, very important. Unbiased. One of the great Nalanda tradition teacher, I think Shenda Rakshita, he said, if your mind is biased, you can never experience peace. Whether it is your attempt to understand the deeper meanings of philosophy or teachings, or even leading a good harmonious life, if your mind is biased means not true to the reality. For example, if you 100,000 times you should say that I'm not impermanent, I'm permanent, I'm going to live forever. You just keep on saying this throughout your life. That will never make you live forever. Because the reality is that you are going to die, you're going to get sick. So your blind faith and ignorant persistence on things which is not true will never work. So much of the problems that we are facing in the world today is not knowing the reality. So reality must be known through direct perception, through inferential cognition, through reasoning, and things like that. It's very important. Let me give you, just because at the end of the day, the purpose of understanding the Nalanda tradition and the greatness of the Nalanda tradition, or thereby any tradition, is whether the practice of that philosophy, whether the living a life in that tradition is going to give you long-lasting happiness or not, whether it's going to give you peace or not, whether it's going to give you harmony or not. Otherwise, there are so many ways of wasting our time. Pastime ke liye to bahut kuch hai. So many things are there. We are not doing these exercises as a luxurious pastime pursuit. Many people in the world today do this. They have no idea what kind of life they are, so they need so many distractions, going here and there, wasting time. If that is what you want to do, you can do, but it is 100% sure that through this kind of wayward, careless life, we are not going to find the solution for the many problems of this world. Look at the state of the world right now to make the Nalanda tradition relevant. On the one hand, there's so much progress through science and technology in terms of providing all kinds of facilities, so-called facilities, amenities. But at the same time, because of our inner human inner poverty, I call it, much of the problems that we are facing today is due to inner poverty. because we are always running outside to get that peace, that happiness, material pursuit. By doing this and by leaving the mind empty, what we have achieved so far is that we have achieved, yes, for showpieces, there are many like fantastic shiny gadgets and great buildings and being able to fly and things like that. But in reality, I mean, look at the environmental destruction. If I just make one point, environmental destruction, which is threatening our very existence. Forget about all kinds of so-called progress, development. If the very life and existence of human beings are in threat, then what do you mean by all these so-called progresses? What do you mean by progress? And look at the state of our human education today. In the case of Nalanda tradition, the education of the Nalanda tradition is, of all, the most important thing is mental flourishing of the mind, inner development. Even when you talk about happiness, it's different from the happiness that is spoken by Aristotle and so forth, where they talk about the happiness in the object. That means the student must get happiness with the help of the teacher, with the help of the parent. That's what we are repeating today also. That's great. Yes, you need help. But what is being taught in Nalanda tradition in Buddhism is that happiness must be the children. It's not only the parents and the teachers trying to give some kind of security and safety and happiness. That is okay. But we must teach the children how to cultivate these inner qualities by himself or herself. How can we cultivate conviction in the mind of these students so that in their ups and downs in life, they're able to handle the situation. They're able to solve the problems. They're able to develop a larger perspective, not focusing only the happiness of the family and the individual person, but whole globe, the whole world. And for that, there is no second method. The only method is going within oneself and bringing out those inner qualities in our daily life, not just talking, but through practice. Now let us make a small, I'm trying to now convince you a little bit because this is important, right? We can keep on talking so many things, but few things that I really want to convince you. Now we have what we call as external development, internal development. Science, technology, and the modern world is focusing on external development, even at the best state. The inner development is almost not there. Look at the state of education, for example. Education means reading, writing, mathematics. But education in the true sense of the term is, as I was saying, inner flourishing, the flourishing of the human person, right? Which is not there. So there's because of that, despite a lot of schooling and education, how people are treating each other, how much sense of responsibility is there in terms of bringing genuine love, genuine compassion. Look at the state of the world leaders, for example. How many of the world leaders today are really, really compassionate and looking after their country in general, and especially the poor people? No, they're all working for, the business and the show business, hardly caring about really, really downtrodden, poor, weak people, clearly showing that they don't have genuine love and compassion. Okay, carry on. If you now let people continue in this way, then look at now if you focus on developing only the material thing, then we need to see from where are you going to get that material development. The source of material development is minerals, natural resources, water, and so forth, right? The natural resources are, by definition, physical resources. Anything that is material and physical, by definition, has a limitation. How can you make unlimited progress from limited resources? If you're not convinced, we can now see today. We have been doing this so-called material progress, and in the name of doing that material progress. We have been excavating and destroying all the natural resources. Where are we today? What is the state of environment? What is the state of natural resources today? It has already started and done a lot of damage. And very soon, we will completely deplete or pollute or misuse these natural resources when nothing really will be there for us to use. For example, water resources, for example. Now everywhere there is a shortage of water. That means you're going to die soon. And we are not thinking about all these practical things, you see. What are you talking about? Progress, development, what are you talking about? When you are not able to provide the basic necessities, clean air, clean water, what big ideas are you talking about? So therefore, unless you have these inner qualities of love, of compassion, of harmony, we are going to destroy ourselves, as simple as that. So my main point is, in the case of external development, there should be containment, because external material resources have limitation. You cannot make unlimited progress in that area. Therefore, it is better to be sensible to have containment. Now, in the case of internal mental development, there is no limitation. It's all yours. Here we are all contented. I did 5 minutes meditation this morning, as if you've done a great thing. I mean, in the Nalanda tradition, it is clearly said that if you check yourself carefully, your whole being and life, your way of thinking is conditioned by, unfortunately, negative emotions. You have this die-hard habit. How are you going to destroy these negative tendencies and habits with just 5 minutes meditation, maybe in 1 week? How are you going to do that? If you are suffering from a very severe chronic illness, how are you going to hope to get that cured just by taking 1 tablet of medicine? So therefore, I really appreciate the opportunity your university is giving. And His Holiness's focus on Nalanda tradition or revival or Indian tradition is basically talking about almost like the secular aspects. Yes, in the Buddhist tradition, Indian tradition, we believe many lives to come, things like that. This is really great, which those of us who are interested, we can always explore, not only explore, but very important from Buddhist viewpoint. But for the majority of the people who are not necessarily believers, some of them may even be anti-religion, even for that, it is important to, regulate one's emotions. It's important to lead a life based on reasoning. So the two most important features of this ancient Indian tradition, thereby Nalanda tradition, is finding the truth and reality through reasoning, through evidence, through proof. And then second, most important thing is finding out about the reality of your human emotions. There's a rich kind of teaching and philosophy in the Buddhist tradition about how to control one's emotions, how many types of negative emotions that there are, positive emotions that there are, what are the harms of these negative emotions, what are the benefits of the positive emotions, then how to transform yourself. And this is part of your program, Transforming Your Life. So transforming your life cannot be done just by wearing smart dresses and then, putting some ornaments on the ear and things like that. No, the real transformation basically means Dharma. Dharma basically means transforming your attitude. That means from negative to the positive. Now, how do you do that? You should do that by using your reason. That this is important for me. This kind of, for example, negative emotion like anger is destructive and bad for me, based on your own reasoning and experience. And then contrarily, the importance of practice of patience, based on your own reasoning and experience. Now, for example, I'll just give you a hint, and then later on your university can do, open another project of doing research on this. I sincerely wish you do that. I mean, I tell this to students who during many of my talks. For example, now anger, for example. Is there anybody who right in the morning makes a motivation saying that I will get angry today? I don't think so. Because you have some idea that anger is not good. So you don't go with a motivation to get angry. Second, when you go out without having this motivation to get angry, but unfortunately in the public place, in your workplace or in your office, you meet strange people, you pick a fight with them, you get angry, sometimes even exchange feasts and so forth. Then at the end of the day, when you return home, then think about the day you spent, that you fought with somebody, you got very angry. Is there anybody who in the end of the day say that I was angry today, fought with somebody, therefore I really enjoyed the day? As simple as that. Then there's so many things we can talk about, scientifically or even based on our personal experience. So many things we can talk about. For example, if you are a young woman, you try to make yourself look beautiful by using all kinds of cosmetics and putting on earrings. And young men also, you comb your hair and make sure that your shirt, the color of your shirt is okay. You want to look handsome and beautiful, right? Now with all this makeup and decoration and preparation, you get angry. For example, imagine somebody who is having this heavy cosmetics on the face and then golden earrings, and then get angry. How does she look now? Is she beautiful? Despite all this ornament, external ornaments, because of anger, she now looks horrible, not beautiful, right? Then through anger, your blood pressure increases. You're experiencing that. Doctors are saying that. What more evidence you want about that? And then all the killings, conflicts that is happening around the world. How many? Hundreds and thousands are killed almost on a daily basis in different parts of the world out of anger. Therefore, anger has always been compared to fire, conflagration of fire. So with this kind of analysis and research, you need to come to the conclusion, yes, anger is bad for my health. Anger is extremely destructive for harmony, peace. So with this understanding, you should reduce your anger, reduce your jealousy, reduce your attachment, reduce your greed. For example, in the case of greed, as Mahatma Gandhi clearly said, there is enough for everybody as far as our need is concerned, but there's not enough to fulfill our greed. And it is the greed that is destroying everything. Everybody in the world is today, everybody is saying, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy. Everybody's running. And I have been telling people, it's not important to be busy. What is important is what are you busy about? You're busy primarily for getting money. That also not for other people, just for yourself. How much is how much? How much you need? Right? So therefore, what I'm really trying to say is the special feature of the Nalanda tradition is how to bring about this internal transformation by clearly identifying and understanding the destructive negative emotions and lessening them and gradually, if possible, removing them and replacing these negative emotions with positive emotions like loving kindness, compassion, patience, harmony, so forth. And all this is possible if you have a bigger picture of the whole reality, bigger picture of the whole reality, bigger understanding of the way things are. Now, how this kind of deeper understanding is going to help you transform your life? For example, I give you an example. For example, if you have a very good understanding that we are all going to die, that's reality. Normally, we don't think about it. Forget about thinking about it. If I tell somebody, oh, maybe I'm going to die soon, then they'll say, oh, aise ashubh baat mat karo. Don't use such bad word. They see it as something not fit to be said by the mouth. But the reality is, if you really have this understanding, I'm going to die, number one. Number two, but I'm not sure when I'm going to die. Death can be any time. If you're somebody who really has a very good understanding and grasp on that meaning, your life will be completely transformed. If you're somebody who has this understanding that I'm going to die, others are going to die, how can you harm others who are going to die? How can you bring suffering on others who are already suffering? So it's so important to understand the way things are, their reality. I have always been given an example to people. For example, the wonderful thing is that if with these positive emotions, when you understand the way things are, when you understand the reality, it will help you develop and strengthen the positive emotions. It will help you remove and lessen the negative emotions. That is something that I found out. It's very, very interesting thing. When you understand the reality, for example, let us say in front of us, there is a 99-year-old man or woman, extremely sick, with wounds all over the body, pus oozing out. If there is such an old man or woman lying in front of us, will we develop attachment to that woman? That I want to marry this dying 99-year-old woman? That kind of desire, attachment will not come, because you have seen the reality of that person. Negative emotions doesn't come. Similarly, will you develop hatred, saying that this ugly 99-year-old woman, let us go and give a kick? I don't think so. Instead, majority of us will say, oh, very poor woman, give her some water, take her to the hospital. At least we'll develop some sympathy. Positive emotions will come. The negative emotions will not come. That's the benefit of understanding reality. So therefore, there is so much emphasis in the Nalanda tradition to understand the reality, bigger one. Now, if you take this to a bigger perspective, the whole world, that's why you are thinking about the peace for the whole world, which is really, really great, right? Because we are now in a situation where anything that happens in any part of the world is going to disturb us, going to affect us, right? So we are almost in a situation of sinking or swimming together. So there's no room. We cannot be complacent and thinking just about oneself, right? So therefore, one of the reasons why we develop this division and possessiveness, clinging and grasping comes is because of our petty mind, narrow-mindedness. I read in a book about, for example, it says the bird which flies in the sky, flies in the space. Although the bird flies in the space several times, but the bird will never think that space is my home. Space belongs to me. Because the nature of the space itself is such that there's no obstruction. There's no border. It's not barricaded for anybody. So anybody can enjoy and fly into that space. So that's why in the Nalanda tradition, we talk about the interdependent origination or shunyata, which has always been compared to space. And so once you understand that bigger ultimate reality of everything in the nature of shunyata or emptiness, you will be able to find the sameness of everybody in terms of the ultimate reality, shunyata, your shunyata and my shunyata, absolutely same. Even the shunyata of the Buddha and my shunyata, absolutely same. There's no division. There's no division, right? So it's only from that state of shunyata, things arise, but for a moment, and then they disappear. In fact, if you think carefully about our own life, we tend to hold on to our life, cling on to our life as if we are going to live forever. But life is just a flow, just a flow. The person you were yesterday and today completely different. So anyway, so let me conclude. I can read the Darshan's.
No, sir, I want to have enough time for Q&A. I
Yes,
can see many questions coming in, so that's
wonderful.
all.
That's good. I also will enjoy more
Yes,
on that.
thank you, sir.
But I
Thank
wanted
you.
to, before trying to talk big things, I wanted to, highlight few points so that people are able to think more about it. So therefore, I will conclude by His Holiness is thinking what we call as his 4 commitments. I will conclude with that. 4 commitment means, as a human being, you have a human responsibility to all human beings. As a religious practitioner, you must think about religious harmony. Then as an Indian, as a Tibetan, you do that work for your country also. Then 4th is the revival of ancient Indian tradition. So which is, I think, relevant not only to His Holiness the Dalai Lama, but responsibility of all of us. And I teasingly tell all my Indian friends, His Holiness the Dalai Lama calls himself son of India because he's the spiritual son of Gautama Buddha. And I tease my Indian friends by saying Gautama Buddha was an Indian, not Tibetan. So even from that point of view, our Indian brothers and sisters have a special obligation to revive that lost great tradition of Buddha in India. And the Tibetans have a great responsibility, even though Tibetans have encountered most unfortunate situation, having lost our country. But luckily, we are also getting an opportunity here in India. So therefore, it is the joint responsibilities of Tibetans. Many of the scholars are really, really well versed in the Indian Nalanda tradition. Work together with our Indian brothers, sisters to share this rich tradition to the rest of the world. And I must end by saying that the connection between India and Tibet is not political relationship, not economical relationship, but primarily spiritual relationship. So let this spiritual relationship survive for a long, long time. Thank you very much.